for our listeners today. This is Chris Johnson. Would you say you're the president? You're the CEO. What's your role at SepioGuard?
The technical term, I guess, is co-founder and CEO.
Nice.
You can call me whatever you'd like, though.
That's the way it's got to be. I love that some funeral homes have a breakdown, if you've ever noticed, of different roles. Like you have your head funeral director or the manager of the funeral director. And really, it's just a matter of who's been there the longest, usually.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us about your career in funeral service. We're coming from a different side of things. You're coming from more of an insurance type of background with preneed as well. And all the stuff comes full circle, and it's valuable, knowledgeable information that our funeral directors and people in death care can get out of your knowledge here today. So Chris, tell me about your career as to where you got where you are today.
Well, I'll try not to get too deep into it, but yeah, I got recruited into, death care in 2010. Okay. I was graduated from college for just a few years. And I had one of my best friends from college that he kind of got recruited at college into death care space. Oh. And I remember him talking to me about it.
How? Well,
I know.
Who got
so
him?
this is the big story.
Who got him?
This is the weird thing. So his like best friend that he had spent some really good time with this person. They were both missionaries for their church, for our church. And they got to know each other really, really well. And then they went to school together. We all went to the same school. I didn't know this third person at all. I just knew my friend, right? And my friend was actually, it's his birthday today. So shout out to him.
There you go. It was meant to be.
My friend was like the head of the leadership committee program, like at this business school that he was a part of, and it was prestigious business school. Like it was legitimate accolades that he had. So, and he kept getting recruited by his friend into this funeral profession, and he would try to explain it to me. And I remember thinking, I'm like, dude, you are capable of so much. Like,
you can do anything other than this.
Yeah. And so the funny thing is here I had no right to say that.
Yeah.
I was doing something that was not great. So I was a student athlete and kind of got into school based on I played baseball. So that's the only reason why I snuck into college. What's that?
I said, you look like a baseball player. Were you second baseman or what were you? Third baseman?
Yeah, shortstop.
Of course you were. Of course.
Second base, infield. So, that was kind of my first love, right? So that's the only way I snuck into college was through baseball, right? So that's kind of all I knew. And when I met my wife, I quickly it was, we won't get into all of that, but it's just like kind of love at first sight. And we quickly got engaged, got married, and basically going into my senior year, I was like, I can't keep playing baseball, and I gotta get real with my life. And it got me into school, and that was fantastic. And lots of life lessons, with baseball and athletics. But I had to get real and get a job. And I remember just hearing really good things about Nordstrom, the retail store.
Oh yeah, of course.
And there was a store close by the college, and I just went in there. It's like really my first job I had kind of ever had, a legitimate job. That is, I had like some summer jobs here and there, but because of baseball and everything, I really couldn't have a legitimate job. It was just crazy on my schedule.
Yeah.
So long story short, I here I am as like an assistant department manager in retail, telling my good friend, like, what are you doing? You're capable of so much. You should go work for Nordstrom or something,
Yeah.
And so, fast forward a couple of years later, we're both graduated, and I had actually transferred from retail and like really, really worked hard to get into this healthcare company, healthcare administration.
Yeah.
And I'd worked really hard to get my foot in the door, and I finally did, and it was going really well. But truth be told, I was just a little bit nervous about kind of my future as, a father and husband, like being in healthcare, just the stress levels in this particular field was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So I was in the middle of that. I was seeing my future ahead of me.
Sure.
My good buddy, my college buddy, comes into town. He lived out of state, comes into town in Southern California, and he's visiting us. And we both have small kids at the time. And we are sitting in a drive-through for snow cones. I will never forget this.
Okay.
There is this little pop-up like kiosk snow cone thing. And it was a summer day, and we're like waiting in line. We're going to bring snow cones back to our kids and our families. And I was like, I'm not quite sure about my future in healthcare, just as a dad, and being able to be there for my kids and stuff like
Yeah.
pretty wild. It's pretty around the clock.
Sure.
And he's like, well, remember that job in death care I was telling you about, and stuff like that, this company. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but I trusted him. I loved him,
Yeah.
And so I said, well, dude, I will check it out. If you want to fly me out to your home office, like I'll take a free trip. I'll check it out. But I just want to be clear with you. I have no intentions
Okay.
of switching. I had worked really hard to get into death care. Like I had sacrificed a lot to get my foot in the door.
Right.
And so long story short, I go, I meet, their founders, I get interviewed, and I just like fell in love with the idea and the people at this company, right? And being able to help people.
Sure.
And really, it was like in skilled nursing, this healthcare that I was in. And so skilled nursing to death care, it wasn't like a huge jump.
No, there's a lot of correlation. What do you mean? Well, what is skilled nursing, so to speak?
Sorry, yeah, like so nursing homes and kind of running those
Hospice
nursing homes and
Okay.
taking care of patients. And
So there's some overlap for sure behind the scenes with those industries, definitely.
there are, and just like the hospitality, like treating people well and dealing with client families, so to speak, and
Exactly.
next of kins and things like that. And
Yeah.
so anyways, I made the jump. This is a long story. I was hoping it wouldn't be so long, but
I love it. Come on, we want the
I
whole
made the
breakdown.
jump in 2010s when I officially switched, and I was lucky to like be placed into this situation that was just fantastic, and I was really fortunate. So it was a pre-need company that got me into death care. So I came in on the pre-need side of things, but I happened to work for like the largest privately owned funeral home and cemetery like in the world, as far as privately owned, and out of Los Angeles. And I was kind of just placed in there, and like I just needed to learn everything from the ground up.
Yeah, you can't just dive in. Like you have to learn from the ground. It's not as simple as just coming in and understanding everything. There's definitely some education that comes behind things before you really want to dive into the industry. You have to at least understand the terminology and what's going on behind the scenes a little bit, at least.
Yeah, and so obviously I was younger. I got placed into like an advanced planning office.
Okay.
Of other counselors, sales agents. I was like one of 32 or 33. And so it was a big office. It was a unique situation. And I was, I believe, 27 at the time.
Wow. Okay.
And so I was just a lot younger. And, people, my colleagues at the time, they would like to remind me how young I was and that
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to make it because people don't like meeting with somebody who's young, but I don't know. I disagreed and just kind of went about my business. And so basically I was in pre-need and kind of learned everything I could, both on the funeral and cemetery side of things. But I personally produced for about a year, just trying to grind out as many appointments with client families as possible and really just soaking it all in.
How was that being so young on the pre-need side of things? I think even funeral directors know that if you're starting in your early 20s in your career, a lot of times you're doing more behind the scenes sort of things because people don't have that trust in a younger person to help them plan their funeral. I don't know why necessarily that is. I mean, I understand it. They want to be dealing with someone that's experienced in a traumatic, difficult time. How was that for you as far as sales and getting over that hump?
Well, I did have a sales background,
Okay.
um, but this was incredibly unique.
Totally different.
Here's the deal. Let me tell you a funny story. First of all, I kind of got some like hazing, I think.
Okay.
So the
Let's hear it.
office manager of this sales team that
Mhm.
worked for the funeral home and cemetery, I think he was a little bit like it was he was questioning if I was actually going to stick around or not,
Yeah,
if I was really serious about things.
sure.
So for 2 weeks, my job, when I first came in there, I came in guns blazing, just really excited to meet with people. And he's like, "Oh, you're not meeting with anybody yet? We have this inventory binder of all the
Oh,
cemetery spaces, and
oh
we're
no.
talking thousands and thousands of cemetery spaces. It's a
Okay.
huge organization." It's like your job is to go through this and reprint every single page and hole punch it and make sure everything is in order because these pages are a little bit wrinkled and people have like written notes on this. And it
Oh
was like,
god.
it was so irrelevant because
Right.
they didn't even use those binders. Like they switched to technology like a month later.
Oh,
And
jeez.
if you were to ask that person today, he would laugh about it, I'm sure, because he was just trying to give me a hard time. Um,
Guaranteed.
so that's kind of how it started. But going
Sure.
back, I got trained really well from the organization I worked for,
Yeah.
and they kind of placed me into the situation. I got trained really well, and I kind of just followed that lead. And I needed to become an expert in this because the future of it was that I was going to grow and be able to
Sure.
train others to do the same thing and kind of lead
And then go down
this
that road, yeah. Have,
territory.
like, a sales
Yeah,
team underneath you type of deal?
exactly,
Gotcha. How
exactly.
was it for
So
you? What, I guess I'd like to know more about that beginning part. Was it weird for you to be going in essentially making funeral arrangements? And what was your philosophy? What was your best tactics that worked well for you? Because a lot of us, are in pre-need sales or have someone on their staff that's involved with it. So any tips for that is always good.
100%. Once you do have an appointment, right? There's a lot of it's prospecting
Correct.
for sure, right?
Yeah.
We could go on for days about that, but really,
Keeping
when
your
it comes
nose
down
down.
to it, you just yeah, when it comes down to it, hands down, the only thing that really matters is like really connecting with the client family,
Right.
sincerely, genuinely, really connecting with them and understanding what's really important to them
Yeah.
and making sure they feel comfortable to get there emotionally, right? Because let's get real. I mean, they're willing to meet with this random person from the
Yeah.
funeral.
Yeah.
Like they are serious. They are serious about doing this, and it's kind of mine to lose at that point.
Right.
And my job is
That's a
just to
good
connect
point.
with them, help them feel heard, and like not try to pitch my agenda. I think it's really common for in the world of pre-need and in any type of sales to like go in and tell people why they should do it
Yeah.
and like sell the features and all these things. Like they don't care about
No.
any of the features. I'm telling
No.
you right now, they do not care. They just want to feel heard, taken care of. You have to connect with them. So
Ooh, I
really what
love
worked
that.
is, yeah, like really what worked and still works today is how quick can you connect with somebody so they're willing to share with you like emotional things,
Right.
right? And the
Right.
experiences that they've had. And
Sure.
that's it. That's it. And just like staying in line
Mhm.
with what's important to them
Mhm.
is the only thing that matters,
Yeah.
right?
It's so
And
true.
anyways, that really resonated with me. Truth be told, so this was kind of right up my alley because I had I had served a mission for my church for 2 years,
Uh-huh.
like let's see, yeah, like 7 or 8 years prior.
Okay.
Okay. And it's kind of a very similar setting. If people are actually willing to talk to you about like religion,
Yeah.
they've probably been through something in their life, and they need help. They're looking for peace, and
Sure.
things like that. And so with planning someone's arrangements, it's similar stuff, right? They've
Yeah.
been through a loss, whether it was 2 months ago or 25 years ago. They've all been through a loss, and
Yeah.
something happened in their life to bring that to the forefront, that now
Stirring
they're
them.
willing to talk about it and try to get prearrangements taken care of.
Ooh,
So
that's
they've
great.
all been through a difficult situation, and it's my job to just connect with them and understand what that was like, and then help them plan out their funeral.
That's
Like it's
really good.
yeah,
That's really good. So it's such an emotional decision that they're making. So you have to meet them on that level. And you're so right. They're not, and it's the same thing that goes with us actually making at need arrangements too. You just have to meet them and know that the family needs to know that you're there for them through any of these difficulties that they might be going through, and that you're acting in their best interest, and to listen to what they need and not to push your own agenda or push your own sales. Let them come to you, I think goes far. It's far and away of a better strategy, especially for the line of work that we're in.
absolutely. I totally agree.
That's wonderful. Well, keep going then. So you're in pre-need and you're selling everybody left and right. You're pulling it in. Well, what happens after that?
I don't know about that, but anyways, I was just very fortunate to be in a great situation. I'm not. It is what it is,
Yeah.
right? I was pretty lucky to be in that situation, and we saw. I got into kind of the leadership and was able to hire a team of managers
Mm-hmm.
to help, train and coach and do all these things. And we saw great success. It's a great organization that we worked for, great organizations that we were working with. We saw incredible growth.
That's awesome.
And so basically what happened is we kept getting this request from client families. They would say, well, what happens if I die when I'm away from home? Right.
Yeah.
So that question was coming up. Like my job was to do as many ride-alongs with the counselors as possible,
Okay.
and just coach and critique and drive performance and things like that.
So was that
And
your
I would
biggest
be
mover? Do you think that's how it grew was by you and the other managers coming through and guiding them, or were there some tactics that you were using that were a little bit unique that was driving that great success that you had?
with preneed.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a big believer that by small and simple things, great things happen. So
yeah,
there is a ton of repetition. Yes, as much face to face as possible, ride-alongs. It's
yeah.
just like it really never ends.
I'm sure.
But there's at the end of the day, we were very heavy on like scripting, right? And
Hmm.
tweaking things on how to say it. Really not what to say, but how to say it.
Yeah.
Body language, things like that. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as the counselor is confident in what they're doing and confident enough to sit back and connect with the family, right? Without trying
Sure.
to say so much, right? And like kind of verbally throw up all over the family, if you will.
Yeah.
Like you have enough confidence to sit back and connect with this person. So my job was to help teach them that confidence, I guess.
Sure, and believe in the product and believe in what they're doing is legitimately helping them. I think that goes a long way in the same respect
Yeah,
too.
yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
So, as I was doing these ride-alongs and things, and we were hearing this need from the client family, and we really didn't have any good solution or answer. Like they would ask us, well, what happens if
Yeah.
we die away from home? It's Los Angeles. There's a lot of transient people. A lot of people have family all over the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's a melting pot. And so like this
Yeah.
question would come up. Probably one out of every three families was asking us
No
something like this,
kidding.
like a lot more than normal, right?
Wow. That's
And at the
substantial.
time, yeah, like at the time we would say, well, you have this insurance policy, this pre-need policy, and if you died somewhere else, you could quickly transfer this policy. And like that's not wrong. It's just not a good answer.
Yeah.
And the reality is
It's not
it's not
comforting.
easy to do.
Yeah.
No,
Hmm.
no, and they want to use the funeral home they're planning with. I mean,
Right.
that's the whole thing,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
They don't want to hear, yeah, if you die somewhere else, just transfer it and good luck.
Yeah.
Like
Go pick one.
they're
Yeah.
planning out an experience with you and this funeral home, and they intend to have that experience. So in the midst of that, not having any good answer, I had, because I worked for a company that was a company employing me, was a national pre-need company. I had colleagues of mine, other sales territory managers of sorts, that were starting to dabble in offering what is now like a plan like ours, right, at SepioGuard, but a product that would ensure that if someone died away from home, they'd be able to come back, right? And they were really successful with it, and they were loving it. And we weren't allowed to sell it with the organization I was kind of managing.
Why do you think that
As you
was?
can imagine, when an organization is really, really big, it takes a longer time to make decisions,
That's
right?
for sure. Yep.
So for 2 years, we tried to convince this organization to allow us to sell a plan like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like a travel protection plan
Sure.
of sorts, right? We don't call it that, but that's
Essentially.
what it's kind of known as
Yeah.
in our profession. And so for 2 years, we kept bugging them, bugging like, you got to let
Jeez.
us. People need this. They need it, right? Finally, they let us do it.
Okay.
Right. So here's the big. This is the aha moment, right?
Yep.
They let us do it finally. So when I say we, it was like my team of like managers that I was kind of over. We worked around the clock to plan out this massive rollout of this product to the whole pre-organization, right? And they had over 200 sales agents in this organization.
Wow.
And we literally did it at a kickoff meeting, like all 200 plus their managers and other leadership were in this room, in this auditorium, this like a convention center, basically.
Yeah.
And sorry, not convention center, a ballroom. There's a ballroom in a hotel. I'll never forget it. Anyways, we're on stage. Yeah. We're on stage and we are just pitching this. Like, we're so excited to announce this for you. We have this new plan that you can have. And this is going to be the training schedule. We're going to roll out to all of your different offices, and it's going to be so awesome, and everybody's excited. And we thought we nailed it, right? And we rolled it out to all the locations, just like we said we were. We had like call nights to reach out to past clients that would have purchased this, but they didn't, right? They didn't know about it. We didn't have the ability to offer it. So we tried to follow up with past clients, train people on how to talk to their future clients, right? And I'm not going to lie, like we crushed it. We did a really, really good job in training that and the scripting and everything else. Here's the big problem. My like right-hand man, Bryce, who's now my co-founder of SepioGuard, him and I started the company. He was like my right-hand guy throughout this whole process, this whole rollout process. And he was
pushing
primarily in charge. What's that?
He was pushing with you.
Well, yeah, exactly. So he saw things from a different lens, right? He was in charge of a lot of the logistics and the operational side of it.
Got it.
Getting the agents set up and teaching them how to, submit a sale and things like that, which at the time was just like, you just fill out a form and mail it in. It was like not awesome.
Different world.
Okay, so and some people have heard this story about we were basically stuck in traffic in LA. Surprise, surprise. And he's looking at his phone and he just had email after email after email and complaint after complaint from our counselors, as well as from client families. Complaints about this product that we were now selling, and our names are on this thing. We stood up on that stage and we told everybody how awesome it was going to be. Like, this is going to be so awesome. People are going to love it. The people loved it, except the product wasn't working the way that we said it was going to work. And because of the simple fact that we had rolled this out to such a big organization, the complaints and everything else was magnified on a large scale. And so we saw all these things in a matter of just a couple weeks. So we're sitting in traffic and it was like, this is a disaster, right? This is kind of what we were thinking, right? and our names are on this thing. And so we were like, this is bad. This is really bad. And we need to do something about this.
Right.
And Bryce is like, yeah, I agree. And we kind of like,
What can we
we're like,
do?
yeah. And so we stood there in traffic for like another minute or so of silence. And then we're like, wait a minute. I think we really should do something about this. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it all started, and kind of got to work. And we started chatting right there in the car, like, well, what do we wish we would have
Sure. The
if we
ideal.
were to like go do something or create something like this and provide this program for funeral homes and pre-need agents and things? How should it feel? How should it look? What kind of
Yeah.
experience should we create? And that's really how it all got started.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I love the traffic. You're sitting in traffic. It's just like those shower thoughts. Something that's your mind is just wandering, and then boop comes into your head, and you attack it. I also love that you guys just went and did it. You saw a problem, and it's like it needs to be fixed because you saw it firsthand. It clearly was working for all of your counselors and all the locations. The families were loving the actual product, but it was the carrying out or the behind the scenes that was having issues. And that's just amazing that you were able to say, hey, it's go time. So what happened from there? Obviously you started SepioGuard. Well, what did that look like from the out, the beginning of things, and how were you able to expand and grow, and what do you do that
Yeah.
hits those pain points that you were seeing from the back end?
Well, I gotta say, I appreciate this question, because even just now thinking about it, it's like my palms get sweaty thinking about this, because, as when you get this idea, it's like more than an idea. It's like this calling that you have,
Feeling.
like, oh no, now I have to do something about
It's
this.
deep. Yeah.
And there was this inner battle for months with me and
Oh,
Bryce and our families, because we were in such a great situation.
yeah.
Okay.
That makes it
And
hard.
we managed the largest territory for our employer by like more than double
Oh
the
my
next
God.
size territory, right? And so,
Tough to leave
and
that.
we were loving what we were doing. We really were loving it, but we just felt this burning desire to fix this, what we felt was a big problem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
I know
the
the feeling.
longer we went, the more complaints there were. And like if we finally came to a head, long story short,
Mhm.
we decided, after a lot of thought and prayer and all these things of like,
And
what are we
debate
gonna
with your
do? We have to
wives.
do it. Yeah, and our I have 4 kids.
Yeah. It's a,
I still have 4 kids, thank goodness. But
yeah.
we had just had our last kid, a mortgage, living in Southern California. I mean, these
Yeah.
things, there's a lot of responsibilities, and I'm like,
It's a
I'm in my
risk.
30s, and it's like, isn't that kind of, you hear all these stories? Isn't that kind of too late to start a business? Which is not
Not
true,
true.
but
No.
um, so anyways, we finally approached our employer and just said, look, we've thought everything through. We are going to do this, but before we do, we want to communicate with you, and we want to help find our replacements
That's
and
nice
do
of
this the
you.
right way,
Yeah. That is the
right?
right
And
way.
we know that there's a big responsibility here. There's big shoes like to fill. Not that we were anything special. It was just a lot of responsibility we had to kind
You
of
were doing a
replace.
lot, managing a big area. That's a big responsibility, and it takes some big shoes to fill.
So yeah, and we found great people that were
Good.
way better than us, I'm sure.
Ah, come on.
Maybe not better than Bryce, but better than myself.
Ah,
So yeah, and then we kind of, that was it. We got to work. Luckily, so our old employer was at the end of the day, they were willing to let us test like with them,
that's real nice.
and
Yeah.
which was a huge blessing, and kind of let us figure things out, right? But to answer
Right.
your second part of your question was, what are some of the things that we built
Yeah.
to kind of improve the experience,
Right, because
things we wish we would
what were
have had.
the issues that the agents or the counselors, as you say, what were they having, and then what were the issues with the families, so we can understand the route that you did take.
Yeah, and that to us is such a valuable question, because this is where our perspective is a little different
Yeah,
than kind of what's traditionally been out there.
you have firsthand
And that
experience,
is,
right?
well, it's like, yeah, based on our perspective, what we knew best was pre-need,
Hmm.
and helping families, right?
Yep.
Helping them do a very difficult thing and like doing good by them. That was our perspective, but the main perspective is this. Our belief is that if the organization selling the product, right, the funeral home,
Yep.
and the advanced planners, the pre-need counselors, if they are having a good experience and they are super confident in what they're doing, then naturally the client family will have a good experience. What was happening was,
Oh.
the sales agents with the previous product we were selling before starting SepioGuard,
Mhm.
they were kind of sold just on the bells and whistles of like what would happen when someone dies away from home.
Yeah.
Okay, so follow along with me.
Yep.
Even that side of the business was not happening the way that we said it was going to happen.
Shoot.
And
Yeah.
there was all these stipulations and like, oh, sorry, you just lost mom or dad away from home, but you didn't call us soon enough, so you're out,
Oh,
right? These like first call
man.
limitations, things like that. So
Yeah.
even that side of the business was not working the way that it was portrayed
Supposed
to
to.
us.
Right.
But what's way more important than that is that like on the front end, on the pre-need side of it, the counselors were having such a bad experience it caused distrust,
And they don't
right?
want to
And then
sell it
they
then.
would
Yeah.
never they weren't wanting to bring it up and sell it, and provide this as an option to the client family because of the experience they were having.
Got it.
And then on top of that, there was no technology and there was no like hands-on support from the provider of a
Okay.
product like this. They were just like, here's what's going to happen when someone dies away from home, kind of, and good luck. Here you go. Here's a piece of paper. Good luck.
You need
Have
something
at
more
it.
than
And
that. Yeah.
it's just not going to work, right?
No. No.
So we're just different. Where we've created, first and foremost, some really fun to use technology
Okay.
through like a mobile app, for example.
Nice.
We're kind of the only one to do something like that. To us, it's a pretty basic concept, but that's how the sales agent submits sales, is through a mobile app, as well as we communicate through the app to all of our sales agents. We now have, thousands of sales agents nationwide.
That's awesome.
We don't have thousands of sales managers out there on our team, right?
Sure.
We're using technology to duplicate our message and provide this awesome experience to the funeral homes and to the pre-need agents we work with through technology and through consistent touch points and things like that, so that they're having a great experience and then they're able to portray that to the client family. So
Got
that's
it.
our perspective.
Got
Is
it.
our first priority is the people representing us. But then on the back end as well, getting someone back home after they've died, we also really dive into that side of it, and we do things differently on our end as well. And just, we're big believers, like, this is a white glove service we're providing with people. We don't have those stipulations, those like first call requirements.
Right.
If they call us second, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
we want to be notified as soon as possible to have a great experience. But if they don't call us first or second or whatever, like, it doesn't matter. We're going to jump in and get involved when we find out.
Sure.
And just try to do right by the client family.
Yeah, because
And
that's what your
communicate
product
to all.
is. End of the day, that's what it comes down to.
Right.
If that does unfortunately happen for someone, they want to know that it's going to be taken care of without any questions or any concerns.
Exactly. Right? Because that's what we told them at the beginning, is like, give us a call and we're going to help you out. And at the end of the day, that's what it is. So I think deeper than that too, like, and it comes across in all of our training and our messaging as well, is like, because of our perspective, we know that when a client family is making pre-arrangements with a specific funeral home, like we were talking about before, they 100% intend to use that funeral home. They've planned out an experience in their mind that's going to take place, right? And the reality is if they die away from home and they don't have a plan like ours, that experience is not going to be the same experience.
No.
They may or may not even get back home,
Sure.
And so that's our big belief, is that we're going to get them back home back to the funeral home for service so they can have that service. Even if they prearranged a direct cremation,
Okay.
we are always going to assume full preparation of the body
Oh, no kidding.
and sending them back to the funeral home
To be
so the
cremated
funeral
through
home can
them.
provide that cremation. Yeah, and then everybody
Wow.
wins, everybody has experience, the funeral home still gets to serve the family. I think there's been some feeling out there with other like similar plans like
Uh-huh.
ours in the past that like maybe the company's trying to convince them to cremate where they die because it's cheaper,
Yeah,
and it is,
much
but
cheaper.
we just absolutely fundamentally disagree with that, right? We're going to get them back home.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Do you ever come across like a situation if they didn't want to be embalmed, like prepared? Have you come across that before?
So we've now had a lot of acne cases, right?
Yeah.
And I can
Now it's
count on one
catching up over
hand.
time, I'm sure.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And it's just going to continue to build and build and build.
Yeah,
So we, I can count on one hand. Actually, it's like, yeah, just
I'm
a couple
sure.
people
I'm sure.
that said, even though cremation, the option to cremate is a part of our plan. So they do have the right to do that. But usually the only time that actually happens is when they're already visiting family that's like, you know,
Somewhere else.
states away or whatever.
Yep.
They're away from home and something happens to them and the family is like, basically we're going to have some services here,
Okay.
and she chose cremation and they kind of demand it, right? And so
Yeah.
at the end of the day they have the right to do that, but
Hmm.
typically almost always, right, 99% of the time they are going to want to see that person one last time, right? And they are
Yeah.
going to, surviving family members want to have that service that they prearranged. And so
Yes.
preparing the body and getting them back home,
Yeah.
um, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, my thinking is, uh, especially for this situation that you find yourself helping families out in, if they are out of town or whatever the situation, if they're on vacation, if whatever that might be,
Right.
there's a way higher likelihood that they might want to see him because maybe they haven't seen him in a month, in several weeks, maybe even longer. So I think the odds of them being like, I need to have that one last look because I didn't get that when they were at home. I think that's why that's such a great touch that you have, because it appeals to that side of things where the family knows they're going to have that last, at least, goodbye.
100%.
Hmm.
That's exactly why we do it the way we do it.
That's amazing. How does it work for you guys then? Do you have a team that is working with the flights and all the preparation, or do you have associations that help you out with that? Because obviously there are someone could die anywhere, so obviously you have to have a big pool of connections in order to make this happen in the first place.
Yes. Yes, great question. So that was like kind of step number 1 when we founded the company,
It's hard,
is
yeah,
we know what we know, and that is like the whole experience side of it and providing a good experience specifically on the pre-need side and getting to as many families as possible and like
yeah,
really being able to serve as many families as possible,
yeah.
right? So that's what we knew and what that should feel like.
It's like,
We
how do we
didn't
do it if it
want to
happens?
Yeah, and so like as you know, like as any good funeral home owner or funeral director knows, like there's a lot of hats to wear,
Oh yeah,
right?
oh yeah.
And some of them they're more expert at than others,
Hmm.
right?
Yep,
And it would be awesome. It's just not everybody gets to do it, but it'd be awesome to focus on just a few things that they're like the very best at and really dive into that, right?
yep,
So as we set up this company, exactly the way we wanted to do it, we didn't want to recreate the wheel on the at need side of things.
sure.
What we did want to do is just make sure that it worked the way that we said it was going to
Yeah,
work, right? And
definitely.
then and be able to like provide this awesome customer experience or this
Mhm.
client family experience, right?
Yeah,
So what we did, luckily, and this is a whole nother podcast in and of itself,
I'm
but
sure.
luckily we convinced National Mortuary Shipping and
Yep.
Cremation
Mhm.
out of Cleveland, Ohio. It's been around since the 80s.
Yep.
We somehow, we were very lucky to convince them to let us like partner up with them, really.
That's huge.
And basically they're like, hey, we've been approached for years on ideas like this and we say no. And the
Oh,
answer is no to you guys. And we're like, wait a minute, we haven't even
man.
talked to you yet, you know? So we're like, we have flights booked. Can we like take you out to lunch or something? And so anyways, they said, sure, you can take us to lunch. And then we were able to connect with them and kind of share the vision of what we're doing and how we
Yeah.
wanted to do it different.
Hmm.
And so long story short, yeah, that's the back end, right? So
Right.
we at SepioGuard, we are the mouthpiece to the client family and to the funeral home. We are doing the communicating, but behind the scenes, National Mortuary Shipping, they're experts at what they
Carrying
do.
it out.
So
Hmm.
they're the ones actually booking the flights, and they have the relationships on a worldwide basis, and they are fantastic.
That's
And
awesome.
we both love that, like, we do what we do best. They do what they do best on the
Yeah.
at-need side. We do what we do best in creating that customer experience.
Experience. Yeah.
Um, and so that allows us to not have to wear all these different hats and be like just okay and everything. We're like expert in this one thing, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
And perfect it as much as
So
you can.
that's how we do it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think that's good that you have the laser focus, because then you could be like, hey, we're going to make this experience as good as possible for anyone that's planning or anyone that's going through it, whether that's through us, through our partners. And it's just a wonderful thing. What do you see for your long-term vision for the company? What does that look like for you? What are your dreams and your goals?
Oh man, I probably should have like a better planned out answer for a question like that, but I'm like
It's so
really a
hard hitting
simple
on the Mortuary Show. It's very hard hitting question.
I mean, I'm just a very simple guy,
Yeah.
and I've always, maybe this comes from like growing up with like athletics or whatever, but I'm like, I just I like to I like to win, okay?
Yeah,
There's
I'm
no
with you.
secret there. I'm a competitive person, but I am a big believer that as long as we are progressing, like it
That's
doesn't
all that
get much
matters.
better than that.
Nope.
It's so fun. People ask me all the time like questions like this, and I'm like, "You know what? I just plan on doing this for as long as possible, as long as we are progressing and it's fun and like knock on wood, we are doing that, and
Yeah.
we have to see it through, for the long haul, if
Yeah.
you will. Um,
Yeah.
and I love being a part of something like this and meeting new people. We continue to grow.
Mhm.
I mean, knock on wood, every year we've more than doubled.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
so basically since 2019.
That's amazing.
It's fun, right? And we are finding more and more that like people in funeral service in this profession, they're just great people.
No doubt about it.
It's a very unique profession.
Yeah.
It really is. Because I know other people can say this or other professions or whatever, but like there's this deep belief in the profession to help people.
Mhm. Yep.
And for us that like really resonates with us
Sure.
and we love it. And the more companies we work with, whether it's a pre-need organization or directly with the funeral home,
Mhm.
there's great people
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's awesome to be able to support them or help support them. Whether it's a funeral home, serve more families and get them back for service, it makes
Yeah.
them look good.
Yes, it
Or if it's a
does.
pre-need agent, like sometimes we're the reason why they make ends meet financially, right? Is
Absolutely.
selling this plan
Right.
and serving more families. And so
Yeah.
anyways, really rewarding.
That's
And that
great.
was a pretty generic, simple answer, but
No,
that's
I'm
the
totally with
answer.
you. You have to fall in love with the process. You have to enjoy the journey, because if your eyes are only on the destination, then how are you gonna have any fun with it? How are you gonna enjoy your day to day life? Because the wins are wonderful, but they're sometimes few and far between. So I love that focusing on every day improving, or improving the little things to get better and better, and that only helps everyone that surrounds you and surrounds the company. I think that's wonderful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Chris, this has been awesome. Really good stuff. For anyone that's in the pre-need side of things, you got to check it out. You got to check out SepioGuard's product. It's going to help families, and I would recommend that to anyone, because it's an imperative thing. It just gives you that little extra insurance that if something does go wrong when you're away, you know, things are taken care of and you don't have to worry about it. It's very important. And we love Chris's mentality and what they have going, and just helping out the industry overall. We appreciate you, Chris.
Appreciate you. And you know what? Why not have a good pair of socks on your feet while you're doing all this stuff, you know? So
Yeah.
if you've been to any of the conventions or whatever, come see us. We now have like thousands of pairs of socks in our office. And so it's been really fun, and we just happen to have awesome socks too.
Yeah,
So
they're
reach
awesome
out to
socks.
us.
You gotta pop them on and keep the feet warm and keep your heart warm too. I don't know.
That's right. That's right.